In a hollow asteroid far from any stars, exactly 5 or 6 ambassadors from different races met to discuss the latest life form discovered. In the hollow, each individual had its own bubble of glass to see into the center and into other bubbles. One by one they settled in. The one that looked like a dandelion puff suspended in a pyramid of jelly thought to the others, "I believe it is time to start." Violet sound proposes, "We begin the meeting." Thought grid of circles, who resembled a deflated balloon with feathers sticking out of several holes. "Do we have a second?" Seconded. Thought heavy volt, the 3 linked rings with the texture of tentacles. "Very well, gravity wave, the chamber is yours. I am eager to learn your findings." Gravity wave pushed itself as far forward as possible, allowing others to sense its orchid-shaped crystal body. "Very well, these are my findings of the possible sentient life of Sol 3. To begin, this species, humans, has many of the marks of Sol 3A, you mean?" Interrupted the centipede shaped like a Mobius strip. "You mean that large moon?" "I do not, Hollow Atom. I mean the planet." The psychic energy that filled the chamber was disturbing to say the least. Disbelief and acceptance came quickly to psychic beings though. It was highly insulting to be accused of being both insane, incompetent, and a liar, all at the same time for Gravity Wave. But it was nearly as uncomfortable for the accusers to be proven wrong by its memories. "Ambassadors, please. We did not all evolve inside asteroids. Some of us came from the rings of gas giants and others from interstellar clouds. These are only 3 points on a spectrum. We should not be so certain that there are other datum outside ours." Gravity wave makes a fair point. Thought Violet sound. Please continue. "Thank you. Humans have many of the marks of sapience, but appear to lack any psychic ability. Although this is considered the primary mark of sapience, they have achieved 3 of the secondary marks and are on the verge of completing the 4th. "Which 3? Cooperation, anti-psychic, and travel. They have experimented with nuclear, but have not mastered it yet." "I'm sorry, but how do they communicate without psychic ability?" "Perhaps it would be best if I started with the planet itself. We began studying planets like Sol 3 because we noticed how planets like them change unexpectedly. These mutable planets are all roughly the same size and temperature and are assumed to have molten cores due to the presence of an electromagnetic sheath around them. This electromagnetic sheath acts as a natural anti-psychic energy shield, making planetary study difficult. To this end, we set up artificial sensors on Sol 3A to study the planet. Our first finding was that the anti-psychic field has a secondary effect of protecting gases on the planet from solar winds." "What kind of gases?" "Primarily a mix of nitrogen and oxygen." Again, the asteroid filled with chaos. Grid of circles brought them into consensus. "You must explain how any life form could exist in a high-gravity, senseless and poisonous environment." "Am I leaving anything out?" "Well, the pressure of the gas is approximately 1 kilogram per square centimeter. Perhaps if you started with the life forms before continuing to possible sapience, it would help us understand what we are dealing with." "Of course. This is a human. In order to survive the condition of its planet, it has to be tough, layered and adaptable. In this case, its softest layer is at least 10 times more durable than even Hollow Atom. This actually makes sense. The higher the gravity we come from, the tougher we are." Hollow Atom's thoughts were dark as it realized his species was no longer considered the toughest. But the outer layers would be as helpless in that gravity as we would be without an inner layer of bone, which helps them stand and move. Is that calcium phosphate?" "Yes. Part of their body is rocks." "Impossible." "It's not just possible, it's what helped them create tools. Instead of manipulating things psychically, they physically move them. Their tool use is what allows them to harness anti-psychic and nuclear energy. But it takes energy to move. How could they possibly get enough energy to move a 70-kilogram body and a tool as well? Remember the oxygen. Oxygenation releases energy. Their body uses that energy to move. Horrifying. But as physically imposing as they are, they still lack psychic abilities. Surely, they can't learn cooperation without communication. Well, their senses are somewhat different than ours, which we only found out recently. We share touch and chemical sensing. They have 2 other senses. They can sense shock waves in the air. These shock waves would be forceful enough to destroy us, even if we could survive the air pressure. This is what they use to communicate and thus cooperate. Thank you for being so patient with your original question, Violet Sound. And what is their other sense? The other sense is the 400 to 700 nanometer range of the radioactive spectrum. They consider it their most important sense. This is the sense they use to determine where things are if they aren't touching them. That range of radiation would kill us. How does it help them? I'm not a physicist, but one explained it to me like this. The light strikes objects. Some of the light is absorbed and some reflects. Different materials absorb and reflect different parts of the light. The absorbed light is converted to energy that breaks down objects, but the light that is reflected can give information on what type of object it is. We actually use machines that do this when we are observing distant stars and planets. In addition, humans can also determine the size and shape of objects doing this. A psychic silence filled the asteroid. Without thinking it, they all agreed to consider the information for a minute. Hollow Atom was the first to break this. So, we have monsters that breathe poison, use radiation as a primary sense, communicate with pressure waves that would tear us into strips, have bones for rocks, and are strong enough to walk through us without pause. And now they are traveling. Yes, they just sent their first spacecraft to Sol 3A. That was where we were able to psychically probe them for much of this information. We have to exterminate them. Heavy Volts was surprised to sense agreement to Hollow Atom's barbaric proposition. We have to exterminate them before they get to us. Grid of Circles. Hollow Atom has proposed extermination of humans. This requires a unanimous vote. How would we even accomplish this? Asked Violet Sound. Gravity Wave was ready. I read the humans when they were orbiting Sol 3A. A massive extinction event caused by an asteroid collision should do it. But for the sake of being thorough, I recommend 2 of them, directed from outside the planetary orbital disk. And we should fission their sun. I had my doubts, but I like the way you think, Gravity Wave. Can I assume that is a vote for? You may, Hollow Atom. Violet Wave also votes for extermination. We cannot change our definition of sapience. Loud Shadow drifted his tubular smoke body forward. I acquiesce to Gravity Wave's experience. I vote for extermination. You can't be serious, exclaimed Heavy Volts. This is madness. I plan on voting for myself, said Grid of Circles. Please, help us make this unanimous. It hasn't even been seconded. I second the motion, thought the other 6 ambassadors simultaneously. I refuse. I vote against. We can't make decisions in fear. Killing because you're afraid they might kill you is simply murder, and to vote based on changing definitions. What about a motion being seconded by the being that proposed it and the meeting leader? No, I vote against. You don't know them the way I do. If we wait until they can kill us, we will no longer be able to stop them. We simply don't have time. Grid of Circles, we have to do it, said Hollow Atom. We have to get a unanimous vote the hard way. What? We're going to change your mind. Don't worry, you won't remember a thing. That's when it all changed. A bolt of energy in the 400 to 700 nanometer range emerged from a wall and went straight through the glass bubble. The glass was unharmed, but Hollow Atom was nearly disintegrated from it. A few floating segments and legs were all that was left. Shock took over the asteroid as something emerged from the wall. No. Part of the wall detached itself and floated to the center. Another beam hit Violet Sound, exploding the gelatinous body. The thing had bilateral symmetry. It killed Grid of circles, discoloring and writhing before lying still. It had 2 pairs of limbs. One pair longer than the other. It killed Loud Shadow, his vaporous form drifting into nothingness. "Human!" exclaimed Gravity Wave. "That's Impose." The light hit Gravity Wave and shattered the crystal. The figure turned from the 5 lifeless bubbles and towards the last one with life. Heavy Volts felt the slightest wisp of psychic energy. "You're Heavy Volts. Yes, you're human. Yes. Please record what happened. Warn the others. We want the planets and big moons. You want the asteroids and small moons. We have nothing to fight over but survival. We will survive. Make sure you record exactly what happened, Heavy Volts. It is why we spared you." "I will, but I doubt Hollow Atom's people will leave you alone. They will strike out of revenge." "We know. Just as I came back in time to prevent my planet's destruction, another team is going back in time to prevent his people from ever existing." "I don't understand. Did you say time travel?" "Yes, it is the year 1969, but I come from the year 3142. And what was that about preventing someone from existing?" "I didn't say that. Sorry. Psychic translators are prone to accident, and time travel terms are very hard to translate. Perhaps, if you repeat yourself. I came back in time to prevent extermination by killing the 4 ambassadors who voted for it. Please warn the others and keep careful records so this doesn't have to happen again." "I will." With that, the human simply wasn't there anymore. The only evidence was Heavy Volt's memory, and that only one of the precisely 5 ambassadors was left alive. Author's name and the link to original text is in the description. Consider tapping the thumbs up and pressing the subscribe button if you enjoyed this video.